If you've been struggling with menopause fatigue, you're not alone. Fatigue is one of the most common complaints I hear. In this video, I want to share 5 of the best ways I've found to treat chronic fatigue, especially when it's made worse by menopause. Yes, you can cruise through menopause without the life sentence of medication or even supplements. We're going to learn how to treat menopause fatigue naturally. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Gala Gorman. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, naturopath, and author of What's Your Kryptonite? And on this channel, I'm here to help you reverse the effects of chronic stress so that you can cruise through menopause symptom-free so that you can put an end to chronic fatigue, even if menopause is causing it. Let's get started with number 1, and that's reduced stimulant use. So one of the most common stimulants we turn to is caffeine. And if you enjoy 1 cup of coffee in the morning and otherwise can just kind of cruise through your day stimulant free, then carry on. But most people who are dealing with chronic fatigue have tried to chase it away with caffeine. You can't artificially stimulate your body repeatedly without suffering consequences. So we need to avoid excessive use of caffeine. That includes energy drinks and more than maybe 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning. It also includes black iced tea, which I am really guilty of consuming with my lunch. Even sodas can have a really big impact on not just your menopause fatigue, but also sleep and weight accumulation, fat accumulation. So they have a really huge negative impact, and primarily due to the caffeine and the sugar and the chemicals. I often call soda a Molotov cocktail, so you definitely want to avoid drinking these if fatigue is one of your concerns. Sugar is a drug, and sugar substitutes are chemicals. So I don't care whether you're drinking sugar-free or fully sweetened beverages. You need to just say no. And so if you do want something a little sweet, I suggest that you make it as little as possible and use natural sweeteners like honey or maple syrup or raw sugar. People regularly tell me that they use diet sodas and think it's better, but it actually accumulates toxicity in your body from all the chemicals. Foods and beverages that feel a little too sweet are good because you want to learn to live with less and less and less sugar. You need to wean yourself off of it. The last stimulant I'm going to talk about here is alcohol. And if you think I'm going to try to take away your glass of wine that you really enjoy, just know I enjoy a glass or 2 of red wine myself, but I'm in reality about it. Digesting alcohol forces your liver to store fat so that it can prioritize dealing with the other toxicity we put into our bodies. So if one of your goals is fat loss, it's best to avoid alcohol altogether. So drink responsibly and only if it's going to be really satisfying. Number 2, we want to up our level of hydration. The human body is a rechargeable battery. I'm an acupuncturist, and the acupuncture points have been identified on the human body as places along the body's energy network that essentially boost the signal. Hydration is required to keep all those circuits active and fully charged. We want to make sure that we are keeping our body hydrated with high quality water. If you have an autoimmune issue, it's interesting that professionals who know a thing or two about water suggest boiling your tap water before using it. And yes, that's even if the city tells you that your tap water is fine. Any symptoms that you're experiencing are an indication that your immune system is under stress. So just know that even if you haven't been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, your immune system is working on overdrive. If you're showing signs and symptoms of something going on internally, distilled water is always safest and really easiest to get your hands on. You can buy distilled water at the store or even get a fairly low-cost distiller for home use these days. You might also want to consider using a whole house water filter for bathing and similar kinds of uses. That can really go a long way to making that evening bath feel like a luxury and be a very healthy addition to your overall daily routine. The next thing I want to point out is that you need to make sure you're getting enough water. I have a big container of high quality water near me at all times. It makes getting 100 ounces of water daily fairly easy to accomplish. If you have a 32-ounce container of water, then you only have to drink 3 of those a day and you get your 100 ounces in. Number 3 is fasting. So let me just clear this up for a minute. We're not fasting for calorie restriction. Calorie restriction is a race to the bottom. Our body adjusts over time to the amount of calories that we're taking in. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're regularly eating 3,000 plus calories a day and not hiking Mount Everest, it is going to accumulate. But within reason, the idea of restricting calories is really not going to get you where you want to go. Rather, we want to reduce the amount of stress that our body's under so that all of our systems are available to be able to use all the raw building blocks that we've ingested. So when we fast, we're not focused on restricting calories. We're focused on digestive rest. What does this mean? Well, it means that we're going to eat less often and less of the things that don't agree with us. So a lot of the people that I work with have food sensitivities, and we tend to eliminate 1 or 2 things. But I will say that if you're trying to DIY this at home, I have what I refer to as the big 5. So if you really want to make fasting fairly easy and not have to really severely restrict how often you eat, you can fast with these 5 things, meaning eliminate these 5 things. So if you avoid dairy, gluten, yeast, sugar, and alcohol, you're essentially fasting from those substances. If you add time-restricted eating to that equation, then you will really do a lot to improve your health. With these 5 things, some are easier than others to avoid. We find that yeast comes down with the elimination of alcohol. But if you're substituting baked goods that are gluten-free, just know that a lot of gluten-free baked goods have additional yeast added to them to compensate for the reduction in gluten. So you're just going to have to eliminate the baked goods altogether, most likely, in order to get the job done. Avoiding these irritants, along with early time-restricted eating, is a magic potion. Let me just share a quick story with you. When I was in my early 20s, I worked out at a gym, a facility where I lived, and one of the guys who was a trainer was actually a bodybuilder. I was fairly young then, so for me, he looked like the equivalent of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but his name was AJ, and he said that you could maintain your weight and pretty much take care of everything you needed to take care of health-wise just by making sure that your last meal of the day was before 6 p.m. So just eliminate the big 5 and make sure your last meal is before 6 p.m. And that is a great do-it-yourself approach that you can manage at home, and it's going to go a long way to improving some of these symptoms you may be experiencing. So far, we've talked about stimulants, hydration, and fasting, and I still have a couple of suggestions for you, but ignoring these tips increases internal stress that can even turn toxic. The toxic stress creates symptoms and other health issues, especially during menopause. I created a video that shows you how to eliminate menopause symptoms naturally, so I'll make sure to link to it below this video. Make sure you also hit subscribe too, because I share lots of tips when it comes to dealing with stress that's become toxic. Relieving the nasty symptoms stress creates makes navigating through menopause a breeze. So the next great way I've found to treat menopause fatigue is exercise. When I share with you that exercise is a great way to deal with fatigue, you might be scratching your head on that one. So how is more exercise going to help to reduce your fatigue? But actually, movement is something that increases energy in your body. It creates energy, the friction that you are creating as your muscles and fascia and your internal organs are moving. You may have heard that HIIT or high intensity interval training is the way to go, but if you want to maintain your weight and eliminate fat, I just want to caution you because high intensity interval training causes a cortisol spike. If you're already dealing with adrenal fatigue and if you're watching this video and menopause fatigue is your problem, then you just want to make sure that you're not putting your body under too much additional stress. Rather, I recommend gentle exercise like walking or yoga. I use a treadmill desk and often walk 5 miles at just 2 miles an hour while I'm taking things off of my to-do list. So there are ways to slow walk and counter the amount of time you feel like it's taking away from your day. All it takes is 30 minutes a day. And even if you do enjoy your high intensity interval training workout, I encourage you not to exceed that 30 minutes. It's going to go a lot further when you're trying to manage these symptoms of menopause fatigue. So just remember, this friction is creating the energy internally. I like to compare the friction that's being created internally by movement to how the braking in a hybrid car works. When you press the brakes, the friction from the brakes recharges the battery. So whenever you're doing these stretches, twists, and turns, walking, just moving your arms, getting out there and staying in motion, just know that you're recharging your battery. And my last tip for this video is mindfulness. And we're not just referring to meditation, although meditation is a great way to practice mindfulness, but more importantly, we want to develop awareness. In my book, What's Your Kryptonite, that I mentioned earlier, I talk a lot about developing awareness. One of the best ways to do that is to practice mindfulness. That's just becoming aware of your surroundings, becoming aware of what's going on inside your body, how certain things trigger you. Notice when symptoms tend to flare up. All of this developing awareness is going to add up. It's really going to help you connect the dots to reverse these symptoms that you're experiencing related to menopause. If you really want to tick a lot of boxes and make it easy to practice all of these ways of relieving chronic fatigue related to menopause, you can take a walk in nature after dinner. My husband's family called this a postprandial perambulation. So if you take an after dinner walk, and remember dinner is before 6 p.m., and just walk in nature somewhere beautiful, this takes care of fasting, exercise, and mindfulness. If you swap your wine for mineral water, you'll reduce stimulants and increase hydration. So it's 5 for 5. And your sleep will also improve. Well, if your best efforts to live a healthy lifestyle and do all the things you've been led to think are supposed to work aren't getting the job done, you might even feel like you're taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. In my next video, I'll show you how to manage the toxic stress that's sabotaging your efforts. You can eliminate menopause symptoms like the chronic fatigue covered in this video naturally, without medication, crazy diets, intense exercise, or any other unsustainable lifestyle hack.